Hey everybody, welcome back. We're still talking about design right now. I'm going to try to make this drawing lesson quick. I hope you spend more time on it, and I hope you get a better idea of what a character design is. Talking about design for characters as well as props, as well as backgrounds. Backgrounds are more towards a layout stage, but it all depends on how your studio works. So, characters. You can search online, could Google anime character designs, and you'll come up with lots of character sheets. You'll come up with lots of images that you can be inspired by, or just see how they are laid out on the page themselves. There's not much composition that goes into character design. That's all for layout and storyboards, and of course the animation. So we're gonna jump into drawing on the screen, and I'll switch over and I'll see you soon. Hi everybody, welcome back. I just want to show you how big my canvas is in Sketchbook Pro 6. I have my width at 13 inches and my height at 10 inches and my resolution at 300. The reason I have it like this is because I would sometimes take my drawings, my layouts, if I create it in Sketchbook Pro, and I would print them out onto 12F paper, 12 field paper size. So that's the reason why I have my canvas so big, is because when I print out at this size, it prints out the exact size of my drawing onto the 12F paper. And if you don't know what 12F paper is, it's animation paper. I use Acme punched paper. It's the paper similar to the one that I showed you in the layout file that we did in the earlier lesson, sorry. So that's what Acme paper is. It's two oblong pegs with a circular peg in the middle, so you can keep your registration and keep all your papers in line, more or less. So right now, looking at this, I'm not too sure if this is the exact size, so I'm gonna click a new file, and yeah, that might be the same. Okay. So right now, what you want to do is you want to color your background a gray color. The reason we use gray when we're drawing is because white is too bright, it's too harsh on our eyes. It gets us fatigued really fast, and that's why we don't use white, and especially we don't use super white, which is extra white. In Sketchbook Pro 6 we have Coptic colors, which are akin to the real Coptic markers and Coptic pens. They don't have super white here. They have a 00 cool white and a cool grade number 00 and a cool grade number 0. Those aren't super white, but actually I think they are super white. Yeah. I don't know if you can see it, but that is super white right there. And this is the cool gray number 00. It's not super white, but it's eggshell white. So you don't want to use that. We want to use a gray, a light gray, so our eyes don't get fatigued while staring at a screen. That's why most design softwares have gray backgrounds, so you're one, not distracted by bright colors, and two, so you don't get fatigued really fast. That's why we have the gray on design software. And we use a light gray so it doesn't match the background and we don't get like mixed up where our canvas is. So we want to choose a light blue akin to a coal erase. A coal erase is a animation pencil. It's a design pencil also. And whenever we're working with layers, we want to lock all our other layers except for the one that we are working on. So you want to lock your layers so you aren't drawing on that layer underneath. Still talking about design. Alright, so I just added two pictures on to my layers, and I want to show you about sizes of different, I guess, typical anime or manga sizes, meaning like head size is how many heads for each certain size character. So right here is an illustration. I found this online. It was on I think it was on like 2 Channel or something like that, which is a Japanese BBS. I'm not too sure the origin of this image, but this is typical manga and anime sizes you will see, from a chibi or a child size to older child, and it goes on and on and on. And this last one looks like an Amazon, so I'm not too sure what that's about. So the person, whoever created this image, they were nice enough to put each head size, and that's what these lines are right here. It's how many heads each character is. So that's a head. From the neck to under the breast is a head. From under the breast to her waist is a head. From her waist to her upper thigh, etc., etc. That's how we measure different characters. I'm sorry, that's how we measure our characters. So these are the numbers for the head sizes of how many heads each character is. So if I superimpose a picture of, let's say, Jennifer Lawrence, you can see that it's relatively accurate. The elbows are cocked back and she's in a 3/4 stand here, and her center of gravity is here. The center of gravity would be here, and where her heel is would be somewhere back there. So it's close. The elbows might be a little off, or Jennifer Lawrence's arms might be longer in real life, but we're dealing in cartoons here, so unless you're doing realistic drawings, you don't need to be concerned 100% of the time with proportions, even though you should know anatomy. I cannot stress that enough. You should learn anatomy, take anatomy classes if you need to, get anatomy books, or go on Pinterest and find images of anatomy and animal anatomy, and not necessarily copy or trace, but learn from them, because the animal kingdom doesn't really vary in size unless it's a kind of a freakish new breed or something. I don't know what I'm talking about. But learn anatomy. I'm not the greatest at anatomy, but I'm not always trying to do something realistic. So we'll just start drawing a character. Our two characters right now that I have for manga on the string is the old shopkeeper. I'm not too sold on how he looks. It was a real quick drawing in the first lesson, and in this lesson I just want to get through it kind of quickly. You don't really want to rush all the time, but you want to take your time when you're doing design. I'm not too sure how long they have the design process. They give the design stage in anime. I'll try to find that information out for you, but I'm assuming it's really not that long. I don't think they take years to develop these characters, and since especially these lots of characters come from manga or other illustrated books, they are usually have a good base idea of what the character should look like. Because if you look at the Sailor Moon manga, it's similar to the original animated Sailor Moon television show. The new Sailor Moon Crystal, I think, might be a little bit more accurate to how the manga looked. So they already have an idea of what the characters should look like. You right now might not have that reference, since you're creating your own storylines. But at the end of the last video, I showed you a comparison that someone did online of different anime characters and how they look almost like doppelgangers to other characters who came before them. It's not unlikely to have similar characters that already exist, but just keep designing and be inspired by others. You're standing on their shoulders of giants. And right now I'm just going to set up how many heads tall this character might be. And if I was going to use this chart, the character I want to draw would probably be here. I don't know, a young woman, I guess. So she would be 7.5 feet tall. The reason I say half is because her heel is back here, and that's usually where I determine how tall they're going to be, is the ground. And this is not the ground. It appears that they're standing on their tippy toes, or they're wearing high heels. So this illustration kind of looks like it's happening. So 6.5 feet tall. I'm sorry, 6.5 heads tall. So I'm going to draw this size character. And when you're drawing, you don't want to draw too small, because if you're drawing this big, you're going to be hard pressed to make a decent sized drawing. So when you blow it up, it's going to be it'll be very wonky, and you don't want that. You don't want to draw super small. Depending on your screen size or your paper size, you want to fit your character within that paper size, but you don't want to draw really tiny, because I used to draw really tiny when I was younger. And I write really small too. So I got used to the habit of little things. Like I used to write really small. But these days, I write bigger, I guess. Yeah. So you want to draw relatively big so you can see what you're drawing, and as well as you want to make sure that you can see your detail. I'm just going to use this size comparison chart as a reference. I don't really want to copy the character, but I'll just use the size comparison as a reference. So when I fill in my detail, I'm not sitting here fighting with myself, trying to figure out what size the character is. And in the first lesson I was talking about framing, and the reason I did the gray, and I made the gray, well, the reason I did this gray background and framing is the program itself already has a frame that's gray. It's the darker gray behind this gray of the canvas. So this dark gray back here is allowing me to have this gray as a frame. So you do want to start with a frame when you're drawing, so you're not super lost. You're not staring at a blank screen entirely. You have a frame for reference. And I do sketchy type of drawings these days. I don't try to have finished line work when I start. And if you don't know what that means, I mean, I'm not trying to draw like this and have a finished character right from the start. I sketch draw, and then later on I'll tighten up the character. So lots of my sketches have lots of little lines, and it's just I'm trying to figure out where every line should be. So when I go to cleanup, I can pick out the line that I like, and a line that makes sense to me. I'm also not worried about color right now. I'm drawing in blue right now because I'm drawing on a Cintiq, and drawing gray on gray kind of gets lost sometimes. So that's why I use blue. I use blue a lot when I'm animating as well. The color blue. And I'm not really concerned about details at this moment. I just want to find her shape. And what you also want to be concerned about when you're designing is weight. And proportions. So you don't want this middle calf to be down here. You want to keep everything roughly the same. And don't try not to get stuck on one part. And if you need to, start drawing lines so everything matches up. So our knees will be here. Then make our upper calf here. The lower calf roughly there. So what I mean is you want to keep, let's say for instance, this thigh the same size as that thigh, or the size of this arm the same size as this forearm. You want to keep them the same size so it's consistent and things don't look lopsided. I'm not concerned right now with her pose. I'm just trying to get a feel for the character. Just her base size. And if I would draw a circle from the top of her head to her waist, that will determine where her elbows are at. Because if you raise your arm above your head, your elbow should be aligned with the top of your head if your arms are relatively even. So right now, that is that's what I have, and this is totally not the way that I would design normally. I would usually spend lots and lots of time figuring out these characters, but for this video I'm trying to kind of rush through it. So I'm going to start another layer and lock this layer, maybe even turn down the opacity. So all I have for right now, our shape is a base. I would change my color, something maybe a little darker. And I'll start thinking about her design. Right now I'm not using any references. I would usually use at least a costume reference if I could find something that I liked beforehand, before I started designing. But right now this is all just off the top of my head. I'm not too concerned with her clothes right now. Lots of my characters start off, nude, because I think we all start off nude. And I do know I want to give her relatively big eyes. And a little bit of the nose. See, so that's what I'm talking about by drawing small. My canvas is only at 50% right now. And I was there drawing really, really small. I'm gonna zoom way in. And start again. I want to give her a pointy chin. She's has her head cocked a little to the side. So it must be the place I'm sitting, so I can see both my screens as I'm recording this. So she's, make sure that she's stays in line. And you design your characters the way you want to design them. Try not to allow someone to dictate to you how your characters should look. Like I was saying in the first video, there's so many different styles and ways a character can look. If you ever watch Shin-chan, for instance, sometimes they do fantasy sequences or they break into a quasi action scene and the characters become very heroic, Western comic book looking, and they turn into heroes or superheroes, more or less. And it's like a fantasy sequence, or like something just to break up the monotony of the way they usually look with their limited lines and, I don't know, very artistic design in Shin-chan. But there's lots of ways to draw characters. Characters in Ranma 1/2 don't look like characters in Shin-chan. Characters in Shin-chan don't look like the characters in like Redline, the OVA. They don't look like anything out of Akira. So there's lots of different ways you can design, and it's all up to you to find that voice and to find that look of your characters. Right now I'm just freestyling and trying to figure out my own characters. So lots of sketchy lines when I'm drawing, like I was saying. And I want her to have big eyes. So I'm going to give her super big eyes. And if you want to learn how to draw, I would suggest when you do take anatomy classes or search online for how to draw anatomy, there's videos on YouTube that can help you out. There's lots of information out there, a lot more than I had when I was coming up, when I was younger. So let's go out there and find that information. Information is key. Knowledge is power. I mean, I would like to think that I have my own style, and for this lesson, I'm not gonna implement my own style 100% into this, but it's kind of hard not to if you're the one drawing. And since this is all coming off the top of my head, I'm not really sure where I'm going. But that's part of design. You just start drawing, seeing what you come up with, seeing what works best, and eventually you will start to revise your images for something suitable for animation. Because too much detail is a pain in the butt to animate. Unless you're doing like puppet animation or you're drawing if you're doing puppet animation, or like scanimation, which is scan the images from a comic book and doing like a motion animation with them. Drawing too much detail it's a pain in the butt to animate. And I would suggest you just keep it simple. And at this stage you can rush if you wanted to, just to get your ideas out, but for demonstration purposes, we try not to rush too fast. Which kind of seems like the opposite of what most people do. But since I'm talking and drawing at the same time, it's kind of hard to get my thoughts together when I'm multitasking. So I guess right now I'm tightening up the lines a little bit more, but I'm still very sketchy. And these proportions are kind of not my style. She's kind of big. So now I'm just putting one of her arms down to her side so I can tell where her thigh is. So you do want to keep the volume. By volume I mean the size of each limb compared to the other limb. So let's say you have a left and right arm. You want to keep them proportioned to each other. And at this stage, I really shouldn't be thinking that much about proportions. It's all about design and not a finished image. For demonstration purposes, I don't want you to look at a really, really bad drawing, even though I should be. So I already have down her height proportions. And she's relatively symmetrical. Speaking of symmetry, I could only suggest that you don't use the symmetry tool in Sketchbook Pro when you're doing production designs. It just looks bad. So, if you didn't know what I'm talking about, I don't know if I could demonstrate it here, but this is a symmetry tool inside Sketchbook, and I've seen people on DeviantArt a lot and Facebook that they use this symmetry to draw characters. And what's wrong with this tool is there's twinning going on, meaning it's too perfect. And you can only draw in the middle of the canvas. Until you turn it off, of course, and then you can draw wherever you want to. But I guess it has its place in design, but I would suggest not to use it. It looks, I don't know, it doesn't look nice. It's too balanced. So I wouldn't suggest you use symmetry because stuff like that happens. When you draw one way, it mirrors it on the other side. So if I ever am using symmetry, and it's turned on, of course, and if I draw her eye over here looking over there, now we get this. So I would have to turn it off and go back. And now it's very wonky. I don't like symmetry. I see it, like I said, a lot on DeviantArt. And at first glance, you know, the coloring might be on point, but the symmetry makes everything just look, I don't know, this looks kind of stale. But that's just my opinion. It's just one rant I wanted to go on about. So now, since we have her proportions, I want to start thinking about like the design of her hair and a little bit of her costume. So when I design costumes over a blue line, I like to use red because it's a contrasting color to the blue, and I haven't given myself much headroom here, so I might turn off this underlayer for now and just move the character. So you can do is create multiple layers of the same character on it. Your same base drawing. So you could start doing multiple designs of, let's say, clothing at once and hairstyles. So that's one thing you can do. I often do it, and I'd lock those layers. But also keep naming these layers so I know exactly what a layer is at first glance. And in Sketchbook Pro, I would sometimes just color it a certain color so I know which layer is attached in what group, since in this version there's no grouping or folders. That's the only way I could tell which layers are need to be deleted or unmarked or unshown or hidden when I go to final production, I guess you can say. Or when I don't need them in a group, I know which ones are grouped together. So right now, I'm going to start thinking about hair designs and what this character might look like. Her description is a young woman. I had her hair in a bun, but I'm not too sold on that idea. Maybe she has a part wavy, part spiky hair. And maybe this isn't a ponytail. Let's give her some flat bangs, big flat bangs. So like I was saying, so much detail can throw your animators off and just be lots and lots of work. So now you have to figure out how to animate this bang if it's moving. Even though when they do anime, lots of times the hair is on a different layer, so when they animate the face talking, they can move the hair on a different layer and not have to do a trace back, which is a tracing of the layer underneath to make it one complete layer. This looks really ugly. So yeah, I could only suggest that you go online and you start doing research and start finding things that you like on different characters or humans, and you implement them into your design. I want to keep this lesson really short. I keep saying that, but it keeps going on. So that's 3 designs right there for her hair. They're not the greatest. I would keep working at them. But I'm just trying to figure out what this character should look like. Who she is. And I would do the same for her costume. I would think about her personality or who this character might be. You know, what she's doing on that day. What's her, she's going to school, is she coming home from work? There's lots of things that determine what clothes you're wearing that day, just like the clothes that you're wearing today, right now. It all depends on what your day is like, or how you're feeling, or where you're going. Same thing for the characters. Some characters have multiple costumes. Some characters have multiple costumes, just like you have multiple outfits. So this isn't really a design class for design class sake. I'm not teaching you really how to draw. If the need is there, I'll start a different class on Skillshare, and I'll teach illustration there. But right now, I'm just showing you the different parts of the industry and each stage, and trying to make them relatively brief. But it's hard when there's so many different stages, and I want to get the idea in your head about each stage. Because I don't really have other videos to reference off of, unless there's YouTube videos out there, but there's a whole copyright issue with that. And even though this is for education, I don't know if I want to go that route. Or I'll just point you to the videos and you could watch them yourself. But right now, I'm just trying to figure out what this character could be wearing. And this looks like a kind of a schoolgirl outfit. Let's put this other girl in like this other version of her. Let's give her like, I don't know, a punk rock look. A ripped t-shirt. Maybe it's flared at the bottom and it cuts off. Maybe she's wearing like some low-rider shorts or something. So try to keep a minimalist idea when designing. But if you think you can pull off animating something that's really complex, I would not ever be against something like that. But just be aware that it's not the easiest thing to do. I'm just thinking about different designs right now. I'm still just trying to figure out what this character could be wearing when she walks into the convenience store, even though I have a description inside. My screenplay, one of the revisions, let's say, I went back and changed that. And I wanted her to be more of like maybe a Harajuku girl or something similar to that. A punk rocker or an artist of some sort. So we're feeling through all of the different design options we have, and still just trying to figure out our character. And this last one, I just want to maybe put her in the description of what I have her in the screenplay that I wrote. Give her some business attire. Maybe it is summertime, so she's wearing like a short sleeve. But remember, these are your own characters when you're designing them. Unless you're getting paid to do a certain job, don't let people dictate to you how your own designs should look. They could be as awesome or as creepy looking as you want them to be. If this is for your own, like I said, once you're getting paid to do a certain job, you follow their guidelines. But if you're doing it for yourself, be as creative as you want to be. And use any artistic design that you want to as well. It could look like a Picasso, or it could look like a Disney movie. Or they could just be stick figures. Go on to YouTube and find a stick figure animation. We all need to know how to draw stick figures. And we should all start off drawing stick figures. It's not a bad thing. When we're doing animation, we're not completely drawing every detail of a character. We're not tightening it up. We're not doing all that stuff. We're just working through what our characters, how they should animate. We're working through each frame of animation, and we're not really concerned with too much detail at first pass. Second pass, we might tighten it up a little bit more. First and second pass meaning that you do one pass of drawings that are, squiggly lines. That doesn't look right. Sorry. Just first pass could just be like squiggly lines, so you're following, a lot of action, contouring actions. And then let's say the second pass we start adding more detail to them. And we go all the way through the whole animation process. And we keep adding detail after we do all of our frames. Then we go back. And we add even more detail. Possibly start tying things down now. I mean, in Japan, depending on the animator, they might start tying down really early because there's no time to do all this. But in regular animation, like in the West, this is how animation is done. Sorry if that's not too clear. But right now we're talking about design, and I'll get to drawing it. I'll get to animation in time. So getting back to the lesson, we have 3 hair and costume designs right now. We could keep going on, do some more. When we do actually get to the design we like, we'll start creating character sheets and turnarounds. I'm sorry, I'm still just trying to think and talk at the same time. We'll start doing turnarounds and expression sheets, which are different expressions of a character. Let's say generic girl character here. She's not really attractive, but let's say we have our girl character here, and let's say she's smiling, and this is her smile face. And here's her sad face. I can't even make this as bad as the other one. And keep doing a bunch of drawings, showing different emotions for the same character. She doesn't look the same. So getting back to our initial design, this is how we'll start designing characters and clothing for them. We'll start with a base. We'll add some clothing. We'll add any features that, let's say, the character has. Let's say she has a tattoo of a heart on her stomach. That would be detail, and that will separate her from other characters. And that's part of designing. I'll be back with more lessons. Thank you. That's part of character design. You want to start with a base character, and you want to start adding detail and changing costumes and seeing what works, changing hair, any accessories that the character might have, and you want to keep just hacking at it. With prop design, you want to do the same thing. You want to keep molding that design and keep working at it until you get to the design that you want. But always start with the written word. So always start with the written word, so you have a foundation of where you're going to go. Give the character the description, give the proper description, use references if you need to. Have a animation morgue, which is a bunch of photos for reference that you might have cut and paste from somewhere, put in a folder, or if you want to print them out, put them on a sheet of paper and stick them all together in like a book, like a scrapbook. That would be your animation morgue. And when you get all your designs together and your layouts, you would create an animation Bible, which would show the animators how the character should look from different angles, which is a turnaround, and how the different expressions that they have, and having certain emotions. Each character is different. Like I said, unless they're like a doppelganger or like a twin, an identical twin, they might, share similarities, but individuality keeps characters separated, especially the main characters, from like secondary characters or background characters. You don't want to get them mixed up. You want to keep the focus on your main characters when you're telling a story, where the main character might be in that certain story. And so earlier I was talking about a lettering guide that I was using. Actually, I don't know if I actually got to mention it, but if I did, this is what I was talking about. This is a green ruler. It's a lettering guide. It might be backwards, upside down. It's a green lettering guide. It's a freehand lettering guide. I used to letter comic books a while ago, and this is what I was using on my Cintiq, so I don't scratch the screen. So it's plastic, it's bendable, it's flexible, so it doesn't scratch my screen when I use this. If I use like a wooden ruler or like a hard plastic one, it might scratch my screen. So just be careful about that. If you're not using a line tool or a ruler inside of a drawing program, get one of these flexible rulers or line guides, and they'll work wonders for you when you're doing perspective. That's it. So thanks for watching, and I'll put up some more lessons as we go along. And the next unit should be coming soon, which should be storyboarding. Alright, thank you.